there. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the session. OMG, Speak Up, Sell More. I'm Robert Kennedy III. RK3 is what the cool people call me. And I've got to tell you, I truly believe that if you have a business and you want to get better, you want to get more visibility, one of the best ways to do that is through the art of public speaking. And when we talk about public speaking, we're not just talking about speaking from a microphone in the middle of a ballroom. We're not just talking about speaking from a stage where you have a whole lot of people in the audience. We might be talking about a stage where you've only got, well, not only, we might be talking about a stage where you've got some people who are behind a screen. So today we are going to be talking about live streams as a stage, and OMG, I've got some phenomenal guests that are going to be on the stage with me today. So I'll bring them up in just a little bit. But before I do that, just want to tell you a little bit. If you're looking right down below me here, we've got something called the Story, Speaking, and Sales Growth Community. Want to invite you to join us there. If you go to learnwithrk3.com/3S community, we'll share that link just a little bit later on. But we just want to make sure that y'all have a place where you can learn more and where you can begin to grow that skill set to allow you to sell more in your business. Because if you got a business, if you're not selling, then you just have an expensive hobby, right? So listen, y'all, if you are in the audience, if you are on the chat, if you are in the comments, do me a favor. Tell me what's up. Give me a shout out. Just say, hey, what's going on? And before we bring our guests on, I just want to make sure that you know that we're going to be doing this regularly. So I've got a couple other shows that we do. We do a Monday Mindset Movement every Monday morning at 7 a.m. for those of you that are up that early, like with Tony Robbins and the rest of us motivated folk. Yeah. Right? For those of you that are up early, come on, 7 o'clock, Monday Mindset Movement every Monday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Listen, if you're in California, then you get some extra inspiration points for being up at 4 a.m. But if you're here in the U.S., on the eastern side of the U.S., then we start at 7 a.m. All right. And then after that, we've got on Tuesdays, you'll see the Speak Up, Sell More series. And then after that, if you are a part of the Story, Speaking, and Sales Growth Community, we have what we call our Action Arena, which starts right after this at 7 p.m. All right. So let's get ready. Let's jump on in to the show with my people. I'm going to bring them up very shortly. Y'all ready? Let's do this thing. Yes. Oh, my people. There you are, my people. What's going on, y'all? I have, for those of you that have been waiting for this to happen, it is here, people. I've had some people that have reached out and said, oh my gosh, you got the superstars. You got the OGs on the show. You got the rock stars. You got Tanya Smith. You know what I was going to say, Tanya? I was going to say Tanya Smith online. Was that a throwback or what?
You know what? That's a throwback. That's like a 90s throwback.
Yeah.
It's OG Tanya.
Yeah. So Tanya Smith, and we've got Chris Stone. Do me a favor, Tanya. Tell the people about you. Tell the people about who you are.
Oh, goodness. First of all, let me make sure I close some of these windows because I think I might be looking a little slow. I'm good.
Yep, you're good.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, then I'm not slow. I'm fast.
You are not. You are not.
I'm not fast in that way. No. My name is Tanya Smith, and I am a video marketing strategist and a business coach. And I have the pleasure of knowing RK3 for many, many, many years. What I specialize is in leveraging or teaching coaches and other service providers how to leverage live streaming as a lead generation tool and a way to build community and have conversations that are real and intimate and, just right for creating profit for yourself and for your the folks who you are influencing. So I love this. I love the topic, and I can't wait to get into it. And of course, Chris Stone is here. So
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah. Chris Stone in the building. I love it, Chris. Listen, man, tell us a little bit about who the Chris Stone is. Go ahead, man. Hold
Beautiful
on.
people.
Hold on. Before
okay.
you start,
Yeah.
before you start, are y'all seeing like branding in the back with this rock star here? Oh my Lord. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
I like how RK3 saw himself, right? And so he's like, okay, everybody stop. Here's another picture of me.
Look
I
at
love
me.
that. My name is Chris Stone. I'm at castahead.net, and I work with motivated entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, authors, all kinds of different businesses to do a show, because a lot of people, they don't want to learn how it all works. They just want someone to just do all the stuff in the background. They just want to show up, turn on their camera, turn on their microphone, and create a show for them. And that's what I do. And I also host a show called Dealcasters. We go live on Amazon and all the tubes, and we go live in the biggest mall of the world and solve people's problems around tech and how to get your virtual presentation together. And, we have great guests like Tanya Smith and RK3 on as well.
Love it. Love it. So listen, I love that y'all are here with me, and I love that y'all said yes to this. I've been seeing what each of you have done over the last, years. And number one, I'm a big fan. Number two, I'm just honored that y'all said yes to be here with me to have this conversation. So I want to jump in because, man, I am super passionate about this. I think the biggest thing that happened, actually, let me ask you all some questions here. We had just a few years ago, we're in 2025, and maybe about 4 years ago, it seems like so long ago, we had this thing called a pandemic. And all of us, you heard of it. I know. All of us kind of went indoors for a little while. Let me ask you, what was it for you that changed with regard to your business and how you delivered your services? Is there anything that really shifted and changed for you at that time? I know that it did for me. My bookkeeper told me there was some extra zeros in what I was spending for equipment. So how did it change for you? Anybody, go ahead.
Tanya, do you want? Okay, I'll start. It absolutely poured gasoline on my business, and I don't mean to feel like I'm taking advantage of a pandemic, but it absolutely poured gasoline on my business, because a lot of people were, speakers, and their whole entire business was 3 weeks out of the year. 3 weeks out of the month, I should say, they were out on stages, and that plug was pulled, and they had to figure out how to work how to do a virtual presentation. And no one was really sure how long things were going to last. And so I got tapped to do a lot of different things. It turned into, a much deeper relationship with a lot of the clients that I still have. And we did a lot of actual virtual conventions and virtual, presentations and events that involved a lot of different people. And we were thinking that when we ever got to the other side of this thing, that the hybrid thing would be at a minimum. And I think it still is somewhat siloed. And so I think what you've got to be able to do is to be able to do both. If you're a professional speaker, is to, be able to take the real stage whenever possible, but be able to take the virtual stage and, try to have that Venn diagram, so to speak, of being able to impact the same people you'd like to impact.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So Tanya, I know that you've been online for quite a while. You've been, like you said, you've been online since the 90s, like 95, like the year the internet started. I don't
before the webcam.
I know. So
when we still had Atari and they were the green characters.
Yeah. So you've been around for a little bit. So what switched for you during this pandemic with regard to online and how you operated?
The big thing for me, honestly, was that I got to really fly. Like I got a chance to go all in instead of just halfway in, because I recognized that I had a skill that other people didn't. And in that moment, a lot of people were wanting to learn how to be on camera and how to leverage platforms like Zoom and all of those other things. And so, similar to what Chris was saying, I think that it just opened up doors and made it more status quo for people to be able to do virtual speaking, virtual meetings, virtual coaching, versus constantly having to spend the gas and the time to go across the country or go even across the city. If you live in Dallas, it's like going across the country. So I think it did save me in terms of a lot of the investments. I know you were saying you spent more on gear. I had a lot of gear that I wasn't making use of that I got to pull out and say, "Ooh, let me play with this because this might go well with this situation." So
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So I think for me, the pandemic shifted some things maybe a little bit differently than y'all, because by career, I'm a professional speaker. That's the centerpiece of what I do. So for some other people, they have businesses and they do speaking as a part of the business. Speaking was what I do. Was what I did. Okay, it's still what I do. Okay, so speaking is what I do, and it was what I did, right? And so for me, the pandemic happened, and March, whatever the date was in March 2020 happened, and within a span of about 48 hours, I had about an $80,000 swing in my business, right? So all of my speaking engagements for a certain number of months were canceled. Everything shifted. And so now I had to figure some things out. I had to figure out how to earn some money like that. And I have this course. For those of you that are in our story speaking and sales community, there's a course that I have called Get Studio Savvy. And in that course, I show where my studio was at the beginning of 2020 and where it was in 2021. And it wasn't even where it is now, but it was a drastic shift for me. So I had video creation, but more than just creating videos, I was using live streaming. That was where our community, it felt like, really pulled together and started doing some stuff. So for you, live streaming kind of was a lifesaver and a builder for my business. What has it done for you? How have you used your business? How has live streaming been a builder for your business?
Well, go
ahead with Chris.
Yeah. I started Cast Ahead as a predominantly audio podcast editing and production company, and this was prior to 2020. And so even prior to 2020, I saw this as a way to differentiate myself in terms of video, because there just wasn't a lot of that happening. There was some podcast videos, but it's not like it is now, where people are actually opening up YouTube and even just listening, but can have the visual aspect of podcasting. And so the thing is that I was dealing with podcasts that really wanted to build community. One were marriage coaches. There was other sales trainers. And these were people that their ideas were we want to build a community. And if you're doing that with a live video, you've got this chat, you've got people that can come in on the chat and they feel seen and heard, right? And so that was really the way for me to differentiate myself as a podcast producer. Of course, this leads to and those of you who have never done a live stream before or ever been a guest on a live stream, when the show's over and the broadcast stops, you have what we call an after show, right? Yeah. It's like you're going to, some people will just scoot, because they got somewhere to be. But most of the time, that's where a lot of great connection happens with the host and the guests. And being a producer and being involved in that conversation. And, we got guests that show up on my client's podcast, and we have what we call a 5-star experience, that where they're contacted to be on the show, and they have clear direction of what they need to do, how they need to show up. during the
Mhm.
show. They have a professional live stream and they experience that. And then after the show, they're like, wow, what, can I have this? Right. And so that's really where a lot of my business came from, was they experienced what they could buy. And
Yeah.
so then it just led to, a bunch of different business for me. We can't all live on referrals, right? So, back to your earlier point, Robert,
Yeah.
if you're not selling, you're going to be in trouble. And so, we keep that wheel going to onboard new clients. But that's really how live streaming built the business that I have right now.
Love it. Love it. So before we jump over to Tanya, just wanted to shout out some of the people that are in the building. So I see my dude, Doug Lehman, is there. You're over on LinkedIn. I see Chip on LinkedIn. I see Financially Empowered Women. I'm not sure. That
Let's
seems like somebody
go.
that Tanya, over
Mhm.
on YouTube. So as y'all are here, just go ahead and feel free to share your comments. Some of them, not everything's coming up in my system here. I want to be able to share some of your comments on, okay, that wasn't supposed to happen. All right, I wasn't supposed to be,
Well, I also see it's Financially Empowered Women from London. So it's late.
yeah,
So
it's
you
late.
got some
Yeah,
late
Hey,
night people on the stream.
yeah.
I
All
love
right.
it. I love
Yeah. All right. So just want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to hear hear your name shouted out, and then that you also get your questions answered and your comments on the show. That's one of the beauties of live streaming, as we were just talking about. Chris just mentioned, hey, you got people here that can talk to you right in real time. And
it.
as I was talking about earlier, sometimes one of the reasons why some people may not live stream, I was actually just speaking to a speaker earlier, and they said, oh my gosh, there's nothing like the live room or the live stage. If I'm on screen, it's just me and the lens, and I just kind of feel a little bit lonely. And I'm like, no, there's such beauty in this live streaming piece, and it can really be a growth builder for your business. I see your buddy, Jim. How you pronounce Jim's last name? Fuzz?
Fuse.
Fuse. Yeah.
Fuse.
Fuse like a
Yeah.
fuse box.
Fuse
Yeah.
box. All right. So Jim's over on LinkedIn. He said, look at these beautiful humans. I like it. So go ahead, Tanya. Tell us a little bit about how it's grown your biz so far, live streaming.
Oh yeah. So it did not start out pretty, meaning that I definitely was not interested in live streaming at all.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do video. And RK3, back in the day, I did a lot more audio conferences, audio summits, that type of thing. And so I realized there was a point in my business where I was finding that my reach for the different platforms I was on had taken a nosedive. And I wasn't able to do the things that I was doing before to really drum up business. Whereas before I could send out a simple tweet and I would fill up a class within 12 hours,
Yeah.
I couldn't do that anymore. And so I knew I needed to do something different. And it also was kind of at the intersection of a major personal situation with my husband, who had been going through treatment for colon cancer. And so I was trying to make decisions about whether or not I just wanted to be a normal, average person and do one job. Or did I want to continue to do this business on the side, because it has been a side passion for me for a long time,
Yeah.
but I could have given it up and still been okay. So I
Yeah.
probably was in a little bit of a different situation. But live streaming came about because I made the decision to do something different, to do something really dramatic and see if it had an impact on my business. And I made a
Yeah.
decision to do a live once a week for a year.
Wow.
And it just, wow. Wow is
Yeah.
right. It changed everything. It changed everything. Personally, professionally, the way I showed up
Yeah.
online and on camera improved, but also the way I showed up in life improved.
Yeah. So I want to make this real for people. A lot of times we share things online and we say, yeah, you should live stream. Yeah, that's a good thing to do. Yeah, I started doing it here. But what are some of the business impacts? I mean, where did you begin to see the translation from just being on video to actual dollars in your bank account? What were some of when did you start to see that? And was there anything that you were doing specifically? Is it just like, okay, yep, I decided to show up every day every Monday at 7. And then all of a sudden one day I looked at my bank account and there was $6,000 in it? Or were there specific steps? What did you do? Because I really want people to think about this as a stage that is usable for their business. What were some of the things that you did to go from idea to income? Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I think, when it comes to live video specifically, I think a lot of people get really stuck. Even people at high levels get stuck on crafting something that just has to be so, perfect. Like I'm not gonna talk about, imposter syndrome, that made up word. But I will talk about perfectionism, because I am a recovering perfectionist. And I work with a number of people who I would consider, somewhat high level, and they would send over content for me to edit. And there's and there's, and you're hearing me stammer at times. You're hearing me say, and and things like that. And I would edit these things out for them and for myself. And there came a point in time where it was like, listen, you don't sound like this. This is not what you sound and look like. We're crafting something that no one can really stay in touch with. You're not relatable, right? You need to be more relatable. And this is what live video does, because it not only is something that is the starting blocks for hundreds of pieces of content that you can use and touch people in various points, but it's a way for you to just say, this is me, and your prospects, the people that you're dealing with. These people will see you as you, not you as this polished thing. And then when they meet you one day, you're not that person. And then you've pretty much, killed any opportunity for trust. And so I think it really came down to, when we do live video, it eliminates that. And yes, there are mistakes. Yes, there are ums. Yes, there are us. But like, this is how I talk. This is how Robert talks. This is how Tanya talks. And so if you don't want to do business with us because of that, okay, thank you. Then we can move on, and I can find somebody else that will. And I think that is, that's the best way to build community, because everyone is human and everyone makes mistakes and everyone has these things. And I'm not saying don't try to be excellent, right? I'm saying, let's not show up with drawers on the floor and, whatever. Like, let's try to be excellent. And that's only going to come from doing it over and over and over and over again. Robert, the first time you went on stage, you probably, like, if you watched a video of that, you probably would absolutely cringe, right?
All the time. Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
Of course. But look how far you've come. And that comes from doing it over and over and over again. And that, listen, it wasn't $6,000 on a Monday that I woke up. It was only $5,428 on that Monday, just to be clear. All right. I don't want anybody thinking it was that much money. So.
Yeah. Awesome.
Wow.
So what about you, Tanya? What was your process like, and how long was it before you started to see some dollar bills, y'all, from this live streaming thing?
I'm just going to say Chris Stone is bragging. So first of all, 5,000. Second of all, I'm going to say RK3, I can't even imagine you not coming out without being stellar. Like, you're always so put together. So,
listen.
But the real thing is, both of you are excellent anyway. Like, I believe this from the bottom of my heart. I believe we were excellent in terms of our thought process. We always wanted to show up at our best. But the thing, like Chris was saying, that gets in the way is this idea that there is this pinnacle of excellence. Like, there's this perfection thing. There's this thing that, look, I got to be at my best and perfect and nothing can go wrong. And I think once I started realizing that things are probably going to go wrong, like my mic is off and I'm talking and people are there, or I show up and it's crickets that day because, hey, I didn't tell anybody I was going live, and so people aren't showing up, or whatever the thing could be, right? I think what I started to see, RK3, is that because I continue to show up in spite of the glitches, in spite of The crickets, I showed up because I promised and committed to the fact that I was going to show up.
Yeah.
Which goes
Yeah.
back to that excellence thing, which many of you who are watching, you have it in you already. It may not be on camera yet. It's just because you haven't practiced and built your competence there, but you have excellence in you. And so I drew from that. Like, let me show up because I said that I would. And the more I showed up, the more I noticed that other people were showing up too in the audience. The more I noticed that I started getting, little direct messages, the DMs saying, "Hey, we love for you to come and be on our virtual stage," or "We'd love for you to come to our physical stage." Rocks Digital was one of the big conferences here in Dallas that I got to speak at, like, I think 3 years in a row because of live streaming. And so, yeah, I did start to see clients. I started to see more opportunities because something I always say is when you do the things that others won't, you
Right.
get the opportunities that others don't. And that's, to me, live streaming or putting yourself out on video cam. A lot of people won't do it, but if you do, you get the opportunities.
Yeah.
So
So I saw Chris drop the mic 1 second. So you just said, when you do the what? Say that one more time.
when you do the things that others won't, you get the opportunities that others don't.
Love it. Hold
Not
on.
everybody's going to do what
Come
you
on.
do.
Come
Right?
on. Come on. I love it. I love it. So wow, I think what I'm loving in this part of the conversation as well is really that whole idea about consistency. The whole idea about showing up even when you don't feel like it and when it seems like nobody else is paying attention. Right?
Yes.
Because I think each of us have had that experience where you're like, okay, yep, I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to go live. And you look at the eyeball number and it says 0.
Yeah.
or you see 1, or so and this is the part that, especially when I first started out, you would talk and you'd get your courage up and then you'd see it glitch and it turned to 1 and you're like, yes, I got 1, and then it goes back to 0. You're like, oh,
0.
they left, oh my god.
Yeah.
They don't like me anymore, what did I say? Right. So we've got to continue to walk through that thing. So man, I want to start not turning the conversation necessarily, but I want you to start to talk about this skill of live streaming and how you have incorporated some of your own speaking techniques and skills into what you do. Chris started to talk about ums and ahs and all of that stuff earlier. When you're on a live stream, is there something that you do? Is there a structure? Is there a framework? What is it that you do so that you engage with your customers, with your audience effectively? Anybody can start. Just jump on in. This is not a point. Whoever's lips I see start moving first.
Well, I'm going to start first because I know that Tanya is much more buttoned up than I am in terms of process. So I'm gonna make this short. I never want anything. I never want to wing it. Right. And I think that's part of being excellent is like some people are just, gifted or whatever, but they actually work to a point where they can just, hey, jump on a live stream and just crush. And I understand that. I'm not that person. So I need a little bit of planning, but that's only because I take this seriously. And we talk about this, we're talking about live streaming, right? But I think of it like, if there is only one person watching right now, I'm speaking to that one person. But this show is going to live on long beyond I'm on this earth. So this is a legacy moment for me. I'm having a conversation that I'm hoping someone, when I'm not on this earth, can be impacted by what I say. And so when you treat it like this, you treat it with that. I'm not trying to make it like so, very, very serious because we do have fun on this thing. But I really feel like if you treat it like this and you're not just winging it, you're not just, fluffing through this thing and making jokes and just kind of having fun or whatever, and you treat it with excellence, it's not just the one person you're talking to right now in this second on this live stream. You're talking to potentially thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in the future. And so it's important for me to at least have some sort of structure concept. And, RK3, you sent over some of these things that we were going to talk about. We didn't, there wasn't a huge thing like, here's some things that we're going to talk about. Yeah. I took some time to think about what I was going to say. Right. And I think that's really what I do when it comes to this. When it comes to the structure of the show itself, the conversation, I have more of a structure. I don't want to just wing it. I owe that to the guests that we have on Dealcasters, and Robert, you'll see that when you're on in a few weeks. Tanya, you experience that when you're on the show. We take it very seriously because we owe it to our audience to deliver something that has value, that they can take, that they can be educated, that they can be entertained, and hopefully long beyond we're alive on this earth, they can be impacted.
Yeah, I love that. So before Tanya goes, I want to show everybody something really quickly. So I love that you said we take this seriously, and we have some structures that we follow, right? And so sometimes people ask me, hey, how do you prepare for the show? What is it that you do? Do you write line by line, or you just kind of, does it just come to your brain? And I say, yeah, there's some things that just come to my brain, but there's a show that I did, this is back in 22, right? So I don't know if everybody can see this, if it's large enough or not. Maybe I can make it a little bit larger. Let me see if I can do this. Make it larger. Bam. Okay. So this is a show that I had then. This is one of my Monday morning shows. So I'm like, okay, I've got the structure. I'm going to start out with a quote, and then I'm going to ask a question. Right. And then I've got my intro. And so I know what to talk about there. I call names, and I've literally written down who's online, call names at that point. Right. And then I remind them to sign up for something or let them know about something. And then I share something. But then I've got, okay, example. And I know that I'm sharing a story right at that point. Right. So that's the general structure. And I've got share today's quote. I've got some things that I'm talking about. But here's what I want to point out that a lot of people don't even think about. I have a line in this framework called soundbite. Right. And that's where I share something that's quotable. Like when Tanya said, you got to do what a lot of people won't so you can get the opportunities that they don't. Right. So that's a soundbite. That's a mic dropper. That's a memorable. So I'm thinking, okay, do I just come up with that on the spur of the moment? Am I as brilliant as Tanya Smith? And can I just come up with some alliteration and some rhyme really quickly? Or do I need to think about it? So I have soundbite. So I have this one. What does this one say? Stopping doesn't make you a quitter if you're redirecting to something better. Right. So I'm writing those down because I want to make sure that I don't stumble over it. I want to hit it. I want to get that point right. And then I've got a couple of them. Part of the reason some people fight so hard to stay in the hole they're in is that they don't realize they're in a hole. And so I'm writing these down because I want to hit those points. I want to make sure. And then I've got my final lines. I've got my close. I'm saying, okay, mention book, etc. Right. So these are some of the things that I'm doing to prepare for my stream and my show. So Tanya, go ahead and share with us. Is there a framework that you're following? How are you leveraging your speaking skills as you deliver a live stream?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like queen of frameworks. I'm going to be honest. But I'm going to say that I'm saying it with tongue in cheek, but I'm also going to say this. We had a really great coaching call last night with my accelerator group. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that came up out of this, and I'm going to get to the main point in a second by sharing this. I'm not going to share her name, but it was very apparent to me that we have people who are different styles of learners and educators. It was very apparent. And I, at some point, had to pause and say, I want you to give yourself permission not to follow anything I just said. But I do want you to still be intentional and on purpose. Instead of you having this whole structured outline and framework, what I want you to do is at least know what your topics are, and then you can run because that's your personality. That's who you are. And she said, oh, I can do that? I was like, yeah, you get to do that because it's your show, right? And so we have to acknowledge that everybody has differences in the way that they teach and that they learn. The way that you consume information, the way that you deliver is going to be different. And your personality and who you are when you're at your best will determine what is going to work for you. And so what I love to tell people is there is no real prescription. Although I have a prescription I use and I will share it with you to give you ideas. And much like you, RK3, of course, I have the structured workflow. And I use a tool called Workflowy to map that out. So I have my whole, like I've got a template and all I got to do is plug in information about this week's topic and I go. But for her, what she needed was she needed the specific topic that she wanted to talk about to make sure everything falls within her content pillars and she doesn't go off track. But she didn't want to feel confined. I could see it in her expression. I could see it in the way that she was holding herself. I'm like, let's pause.
Yeah.
So I talk about personality. And one of the things that I try to do, even at the very beginning when people don't know me, is to send them to my quiz so that they can figure out their archetype. Like, what kind of live streamer are you? Because you may not be the same as me. You might have a different place of genius.
Yeah, I would love for you to share that. Is that a free lead magnet that you've got?
Yeah.
I would love you to share that because I mean I think that's so important for people to understand, and I would love to share that with our community so that they can come and find out their archetypes as well. Because when you understand who you are and how you show up naturally, right? You don't have to change who you are in order to be in front of a microphone or to be in front of the camera. You just got to be more you of you, right? The U.S. you that you can be. Do that. Figure out what your superpower is, and then bring that baby to life even more so that people can really begin to lean into your vibe. Your vibe attracts your tribe, as they say. So I really want to encourage people, again, as we're talking about live streaming, for some of you who may be nervous about doing this, who are saying, okay, yeah, I know, I see Robert, I see Chris, I see Tanya, they're on screen, but I don't know if I can, right? They've got some special sauce. They've got some special superpower. They were born to do this. They've got a talent no, listen. Chris talked about our first videos. I got to tell you, when I was in college, I used to lead a singing group, and I remember starting this group and I was not confident about speaking, but I was the leader. So I had to do the transitions between the songs and all of that stuff. And I remember seeing, hold on, y'all gonna laugh at this part. I remember looking at the VHS.
Nice. At least it wasn't beta.
I remember looking back at the VHS and just cringing at how I looked. Because I was stuck. I was stone-faced. I was stiff. I didn't have any body language. I was just doing everything in my head to remember the words that I needed to say. And so it was a different person. But guess what? I had to keep showing up. I kept on showing up. I kept doing it. And, 20 something years later, 30 years later, now you've got this RK3 that people look at as like, oh, okay. Yeah. He's just good at that. Yeah. 30 years overnight, I became good at this. So, I know, right? So you got to just keep on showing, I believe in you. So before we go ahead, you were going to say something, Tanya.
Well,
Chris, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think people who are speakers right now, and a lot of the folks, that are in this community, RK3, are speakers. And if they're reticent on doing the virtual stuff, it just like you just talked about being on stage very early, watching your reel-to-reel video of you talking between songs, but you had to go through hundreds and hundreds of times being on stage before you got to that point. But no one who's a professional speaker is doing it and doesn't like it. Is not enjoying. There are elements of this that they enjoy. I'm having fun. These two are my friends, and we've known each other for years, and we do all of these things together. You have to understand that live streaming is also fun. It is a lot of fun. You get to meet tons of people. One of the most underrated parts of doing a video podcast and a live stream is the ability to network, is the ability to you saying, I want to do business with this person, so I'm going to invite them on my podcast. And all of a sudden you have a real connection, not just a LinkedIn connection, which may or not be real, right? So I think it's that passion has to be there. And I've had conversations with clients in the past, and at some point it's just like, hey, listen, I'm not sure you really like doing this. Do you really enjoy doing this? Because no one wants to see or hear someone who doesn't enjoy what they're doing.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow. So we've talked about the troubles that or the growth that we've walked through, and some of the belief systems that we've had in ourselves. Are there ideas or myths, I would say, that you've encountered? Is there anything that you yourself thought, or is there anything that other people told you about this entire live streaming thing that you just kind of want to debunk for the people right now? Chris, you were smiling, man. So let's go right back to you, man. You're smiling.
That you need some big expensive setup. You know, I go live on Amazon, and every single time we have the conversation with people who are saying, should I buy the Shure SM7B microphone, which is $380 or whatever it is?
You should.
Do I need a A10 mini switcher? Do I need this? Do I need this? Do I need this? And ladies and gentlemen, all you really need to do is to be seen and heard clearly and understood. That's it. And a lot of that is free, which means put yourself into a room that's small and dead. Get some fluffy stuff around you. Make sure there's some carpeting on the floor. It doesn't matter what's outside of the frame. It only matters what's inside of the frame. So you can do a lot of things around you to keep the sound from pinging off all the glass that you may have around you and all of the stuff that isn't necessarily sound treated. You can do that. Make sure you're speaking across a dynamic microphone, not into it, creating all kinds of plosives. You know, make sure you've got a light in front of you, not behind you, or you're not in witness protection, right? Let's get that light in front of you, right? And you've got lamps in your house. You've got a phone. You've got a smartphone. You can use that as a high definition webcam. And so these are things that I think the biggest myth, that without question, is that you have to spend a lot of money to look like RK3 and Tanya Smith. You don't. You absolutely do not. Those are excuses to keep you from creating. And you can graduate after you've got your act together and you've got a concept, and you're going through the reps, and you're at show number 17, and you're like, okay, now I've got people there I'm engaging with. Now I've got a show. Now I can do this. Okay, maybe you get a microphone that's a little more expensive because you're noticing some echo or something like that in your room. But don't start out with all of the gear without thinking first about being heard more clear.
Yeah, I love that, Tanya. Did you hear or did you see how he said just casually? Yeah, so you don't want to do all this stuff so you could look like RK3 and Tanya Smith at first. But of course, I want to point out how Chris has a guitar perfectly lit in the background. He's got the cast ahead. And I've seen Chris on some other shows, and I noticed that he's got the Speak Up, Sell More in the background with the yellow. So he used a yellow tint tonight, as opposed to some other. So carefully.
and now I'm getting a red tint on my face, but it's intentional. All of this is very intentional. I am a podcast producer, and so part of when I show up backstage for the shows that I produce is I have to be like I'm in the studio. This is the studio of RK3 in this instance, or and then when I'm on a Tanya show, it's Tanya. We've got magenta, we've got the purple, we've got all that stuff. It's about I'm serving as much. I'm not trying to be distracting. I think that's the other thing that people when people realize, like, you can't be distracting. There are things like pattern interrupts that we're talking about and doing, but when you're in a live stream, don't be like, so, oh my gosh, like, look at this amazing thing. Can you see that? I used to have a setup. I don't know if you guys remember, but I used to have all my guitars, all my basses, and some, the platinum albums, gold albums that I got when I worked at Sony. I used to put that behind me. Well,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
You know why they're not here? Because everybody talked about it.
Distraction. Yeah.
Ooh.
Total
Mhm.
distraction.
Mhm.
This is what they need to be hearing this. That's the first and thing. And so if you're distracting them with things in your virtual setup, then you're like, what are we doing?
Wow. That was
Let me
that was
start
a
putting
mic
that
drop.
stuff up. Hold on, let me go
Yeah.
change distraction.
Oh my Lord. I love this conversation. So Tanya,
Ooh,
so
let me get rid of
he
that. Hold up.
she was like, what's that
No,
boss
you
lady
gotta
you
keep
got
the
going
boss
on in the
lady. You
background
gotta
there? It's
keep
like
that.
that lava lamp.
Let's talk for 20 minutes about the lava lamp, can we?
No, that's genius.
Yeah.
And you talked about your role as a producer. And so what people are going to see when they see you is, wow, he really can I can see him fitting into my team and doing this work for me, right? And
That's
not
exactly
trying
it.
to take over the show. So
Yeah.
I can see that. Yes, absolutely. And I think that is something you hit on, something that I think is like a gem. Be mindful when you are guesting on other people's show. Be
Yeah.
mindful that you are being a
I guess.
part of the show.
Yes.
It's not it's not about you taking over, and it's not about you. It's about the two of you or the three of you or whatever the panel size is, it making an impact on the audience and sharing something of value. And if you become a distraction, or if you're over speaking, and if you're just taking too long and everybody else had short answers and you're like the long-winded person to the point to where people are doing this, that's probably problematic.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what your question was now.
That's my fault because I was too long-winded.
No,
probably.
it's okay. It's okay. We were talking about myths that you've encountered, but it's okay. I think that really, I loved where Chris brought this, because it started to bring up the point of, okay, the intention about all of this. And it's not just, okay, yep, I'm just going to grab a mic and show up. The intention is to really, number one, support the people whose platforms that you're on, but also just really have I'm losing my words here, but show up in a way that allows people to know that you are going to prioritize them instead of trying to promote you only.
That's it.
So I love that.
Yeah,
So
people
let
can
me
get
ask.
intimidated. People can
Go
get
ahead, say that.
intimidated, right? Especially if you're doing a solo show, right? If you're doing a solo show and you still, we went back to, live show and saying and all of those things. But if you have some amazing, and I mean, there are some shows on YouTube that like crush broadcast television. They are just they're amazing. But there is some loss of connection, I feel.
Yeah.
So you almost have to, be excellent, but don't be distracting, when it comes to that stuff. And, it's really about being heard. Okay, RK3, nobody is subscribing to this podcast because your voice is like melting butter in my ears, right? That's not why they're here tonight. That is not, well, maybe because Tanya's voice is that good, but
whatever.
they're not here because of that. They're here because they want to be educated. They want to be entertained. They want to feel this experience that you bring to them. And if things are just, they can't connect with it, they're gone.
Yeah. So just because Chris mentioned butter, I've got to do the butter.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So,
here we go. Let's go.
I couldn't even keep a straight face.
I've just been waiting. I knew it was going to be something.
There was something. There's got to be something. So let me ask you all. See, you both have podcasts. You both have video help, and so some people might be on here saying, okay, it makes sense for them to live stream because they're helping people with stuff on screens. They're helping people with stuff on video. What is it that I can live stream? What can the average person do in order to speak promote their business using live streaming that is different than what you all are doing? I hope I'm phrasing that question easily
Yeah.
or right. But yeah, Tanya, you can start since you forgot the last question.
I know, right? Just throw me out there under the bus.
Go ahead.
I had an answer too, but
Yeah.
here's my thought on this one. It's really anybody who chooses to be on camera, you have an opportunity right now in this moment to be there, because every single social platform alive, everything that is up and running today has some version of a video that they're promoting and pushing in the feed. We're talking about even Substack has live streaming capabilities now. All of the channels have this. So it's an opportunity for you. So there's what I talk about with people is this. If you choose to, because it's a choice, I don't want to convince you, but if you choose, then you have an option of being able to speak to people with purpose. And I call it 5 E's. You can entertain them, you can educate them, you can elevate your brand and promote something, right? You can engage by asking questions, right? So there's all these different things. There's another one. You can encourage. You can simply get on because you're encouraging. So if you're doing any one of those things or a combination of them, that is your opportunity to share. So behind the scenes, like I said, getting on and just sharing some encouragement from your own unique set of experiences and filters for your business, any of those things are opportunities, and you get to choose how you make that pattern come together on camera. You just have to first make the decision to get on camera. That's the first step.
Love it. Love it. Love it. We are getting close to the wrap-up time here, so I want to wind this down with a couple of things. I want you all to tell them a little bit more about where you are, your communities, and how to find you. But I also want you to wrap up with what's the one most important reason for people to just grab their courage and get on stage or get on a live stream? What is the biggest reason that people need to do that now in February 2025?
Okay, I guess it's my turn, but I'm going to say it's to get found. I mean, there is so much noise out here, and especially with people just rubber stamping content through a lot of these AI, platforms, and it really does feel daunting, right? When you see all of this content, quantitatively, you see all of this content, and a lot of it looks the same. And so I wouldn't let someone, if they're feeling like, how can I even get started right now and get in line? This just seems like this mountain, in front of me. I think there's a real shot for people to be excellent and to rise above all of that mediocrity that's out there, and just taking your content and funneling it into some program that spits you out 20 pieces of content that doesn't even have you speaking complete sentences and has words flashing over your face. I think there's a real opportunity for you to be excellent in taking a live stream and then parsing it into hundreds of pieces of content, which is what we do. So it's not just about that moment. I think I can't stress that enough. It's about creating a legacy of content. You can take a 45-minute live stream and parse that into LinkedIn posts, content for your speaker reels, Pinterest, Facebook, Blue Sky, X, whatever they're calling it now, Twitter, and Instagram reels, YouTube shorts. These are all things that you can tactically do and excellently do to set yourself apart from what everybody else is doing. The live stream is where it starts. It is your starting blocks for you to go, okay, now I have this huge piece of content. This show right now is being recorded. Before it was recorded, I asked RK3, can you send me the video files? And of course he said, yes. What, you want to know why? Because I'm going to make a whole bunch of content out of this. We're going to use all parts of the pig, like Henry Ford once said, and we're going to make all kinds of content out of it. Why? Because the people that we can reach are in hundreds of different places, and we can reach them with the content. So if there's ever a reason why you should do a live stream, it's to get found. That's it.
Love it. Love it. Go ahead, Tanya. Oh, Chris, before you leave, where do people find you? I'm
at castahead.net. And you can find me in all the tubes. I hang out on LinkedIn mostly, but you know, I'm on all the places. I park all my content in different places. But yeah, castahead.net.
Fantastic. Go ahead, Tanya.
Yeah, first of all, I want to give Chris his flowers and just say, when he talks about repurposing and creating, oh my goodness, his level of design and graphics, his eye for visual appeal is just amazing. So I just wanted to give you your stars on that.
Thank you.
He has been helpful for me, as you know. So I am going to say that the number one reason besides visibility, because, hey, Get Noticed with Video is my LLC. So I totally sign off on what Chris already said. But another reason that you might not have thought of is that it's time for you to actually show up at a level that you've never shown up before. Right now, in this moment, it is really required of you to not be silent, but to speak up. And so I feel that this is the time, if you ever thought about speaking on any type of stage, this is probably the moment where somebody needs to hear your voice, because your voice has been missing.
Yeah.
And don't think that there's not enough room for you. There is room for your message. There is room for you to speak. There always has been. You just haven't stood up to take your position and to stand where you're meant to stand. So I think now is a good time for you to think about that. Have I been kind of holding back and not doing the thing that I know I'm meant and purposed to do? This is your moment to speak up, and people need to hear you. So to find me, streamlikeaboss.tv. And if you want to find any of my socials, specific socials that are your favorite platform, just go to streamlikeaboss.tv/links.
Love it. Love it. This has been phenomenal. There's so many areas where I wanted to go deeper. Like we didn't even get to talk about tech much, which y'all know I love that. And so we could have done this till 8:30 tonight if we went down that rabbit hole. But this conversation has been so rich and so full. For those of you that are watching, make sure that you head back to the beginning. You head to YouTube and you head to LinkedIn, where this show has been broadcast, and you hit that replay and you watch it again. And make sure that you leave some comments so that we know what nuggets you got from the show. Those of you that are not a part of our community yet, just want to encourage you to hit us up, join us in the Story Speaking and Sales Growth community. learnwithrk3.com/3S community. We'll share that with you. Those of you that are on our list, we'll share the information with you. And also we'll put it in the comments so that you can easily join the community, because right now we're just actually starting up. Today is our launch, our kickoff day for this community. And if you are a business owner, if you're a small business owner and you want to grow, you want to create visibility for your business, I really believe that public speaking, getting on stages is one of the best ways for you to create that visibility for your business. Instead of chasing people one by one, trying to coach them and saying, hey, I'm going to call all these people. That's good. And that works to some degree, but it's just a slower process. If you can get on stage and speak to many people at once, if you can get on a video or a live stream stage and speak to many people at once, or take that one-time performance, if you want to call it that, and repurpose it, as Chris talks about. It lives online forever and ever and ever. So it's going to create more traction for you than you just chasing everybody one by one. Find a stage, y'all. I love to say that everything that happens to you in life is your stuff is your story, and your story deserves a stage. So find a stage so that you can grow your business, speak up, and sell more. This has been the Speak Up and Sell More series. Y'all have been phenomenal guests. Chris and Tanya, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you,
Appreciate you.
Thank you.